Hello and welcome back everyone to Justin's book review. This is book number 149 coming right at you. It took me about a month to read this book, which is entitled A Civil Action. It is by Jonathan Harr. It was made in 1995. And let me tell you a little bit about this book. I got this book from someone, and I don't know who gave it to me. I believe it was an old coworker and told me to read it. I have a lot of these books back here that people give to me over the years. Some I read, some I kind of shelf, and I say I'll read it later. This was one of them. I kept kind of thinking, am I going to read it this month? And I kept pushed and pushed. Finally, I read it. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's a nonfiction book. When you read the cover, the back cover, it kind of says that it's a legal thriller, an epic courtroom showdown between plaintiffs, these families that have had some tragedies befall them. Some kids got sick and some adults got sick after drinking some water in this town in Massachusetts, Woburn, Massachusetts, and the lawsuit is against two major corporations that were charged with polluting the water in this town. So, this book is 500 pages. It's a long read. It's very small print, and I have a paperback here. The author does a really good job. He's a really good writer of detailing everything. I guess it wasn't what I was expecting, though, because I feel like if you were a lawyer, you would love this book. But for the average Joe, it's everything happened in the early 80s, and then you fast forward to the case, which is a few years later, and nothing's really happening. It's really, you're just discovering, you're digging up documents, and it's actual courtroom stuff and lawyers. You're following around a bunch of lawyers. So to some extent, that's interesting, but to some extent, I think it's might be boring to some people. So to me, it was a little bit at times boring, but all in all, I think it was a good book. I don't want to get into the ending, but it is a nonfiction, and if it wasn't a nonfiction, I think the ending would have been a little different. It's kind of, I want to say, a little disappointing, but it's one cool thing about reading about a book like this, a nonfiction, is you can go online, you can Google these lawyers that made national news, and see what they're up to now. I think that the main character, not the main character, the main lawyer on the plaintiff side, his name is John, is still doing environmental lawsuits and kind of suing people. So I don't want to give it a bad grade because I think it was a good book. I just didn't expect this. I will give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. As for recommendations, most of my friends probably wouldn't like this. I have a couple friends that are lawyers, probably have already read this if they haven't. I'd recommend it to them, but all in all, I wouldn't say the average Joe wouldn't like to read this. I wouldn't be happy with it. So, some of you environmental engineers, I know a lot of my crowd, my audience is all environmental engineers, would really like this because it talks a lot about different chemicals polluting groundwater and monitoring wells and all this fun engineering stuff that I hear about at work, but I don't actually do. So, again, A Civil Action by Jonathan Harr, 3 out of 5 stars. If you want to read it, go right ahead if you're really interested in the law, because it's all about the law. And it's a little bit into the personal details about the case and the families and stuff, but not too much. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me. Next week, or next book, will be my 150th book since I've started kind of counting, I guess, which was the end of college, which now has been almost over 8 years now. So 8.5 years, I've read 149 books. Not bad, not bad. Anyway, a sneak peek. What I'm going to be reading, I already started reading it, everyone. It is now a major motion picture. It's called The Snowman by Joe Nesbo, a fictional story thriller. I don't read a ton of thrillers, but it's a page turner. I'm already 50 pages in, so shouldn't be too long before I'm back with you here on the YouTubes, giving you my review. Hopefully it's a good one. I don't know. Anyway,